come back from the desert. Welcome to tonight on How Not to Get Wrecked, sponsored by Hashlock. Hashlock in the crew, in the house, I should say, all the way from Sydney. Although you guys have been traveling the world, and I've had the pleasure of being at a lot of global events with Hashlock. Although they're originally Australian, Sydney born and bred, they are a global business, and we're quite lucky to have them take us and learn how we stay safe. I don't know what keeps happening with the, okay. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Danielle Marie. I'm going to be taking you through a quick open. I'll hand it over to Matt. He's going to talk about some upcoming events that you should know about. We'll bring up Hashlock. They'll go through their presentation, and then we will keep networking until 8 o'clock. Maybe it's the storm. Okay, all things blockchain. Just quick question. Is it me or is it you? I've never used a clicker before. Okay, all things blockchain. A lot of familiar faces in the place, but I would like to just do a quick show of hands. And if we could turn off the music, I think he's already off that. Fantastic. Who's very first time to an all things blockchain meetup? I know that you're new. You're too shy to put up your hand. You're new. We got a few new people. Welcome, all of the new people. Everyone in this room is very friendly and welcome, and we're very happy that you're here. All Things Blockchain was founded in November 2020 by myself, and there was other two co-founders at the time, with a vision of creating a community that was grown for the community by the community. We are a nonprofit association, and we wouldn't be here without the community and the sponsors, such as Hashlock themselves. If you want to learn more about us, please go and check out our website. Although I am the driving force behind All Things Blockchain and have pushed it for the last 4 years, I wouldn't be here without the team. So I always like to give them a big shout out and an acknowledgement. A lot of these people started off as volunteers, and they put a lot of time and energy, and we're always looking for other team members and volunteers that want to help out. So always reach out to us. We would like to give a big shout out to Renee. Renee, where are you? Over in the corner. So Renee's our social media manager. She's a trader, but more importantly, she makes the very nice food platters for us. So we just want to acknowledge Renee and the efforts that she does. She comes up early from the Gold Coast. She makes the platters. She makes them gorgeous. And we just want you to know that we appreciate all of your efforts. So thank you, Renee, for everything that you do. We want to give a bit of a shout out to some of our upcoming 2025 sponsors. If you come to our Christmas party, which Matt is going to talk about just a little bit later, we will do an announcement of all of our 2025 sponsors. But we are onboarding our new sponsors every year. So if there's anybody in the community that knows or is a part of our project that would like to be a sponsor, please reach out to us as we are currently onboarding our 2025 sponsors. These are all of our sponsors that we have at the moment from 2024 and 2025, and I just like to acknowledge them because the food and the drinks and the operations and everything, it's all because of them. Now, I'm not going to talk about every single one of them. You want to learn about them, go into our website. But these events, the pizza, the drinks, everything, they wouldn't happen without our sponsors. So they're very important for us in completing our vision of growing the community. I don't like this delay. Oh, we have collaboration partners as well. So we work with other communities. As I said, we're a community that is organized by the community for the community. So we work with other Wave of Innovation, Women in Digital Economy, Australian Crypto Convention, what Match will be talking about, which is next week, and Off-Chain. These are communities that are all focused and they have the same vision of us, is just helping people enter in the space. So rather than, we don't believe in competing, we believe in collaborating and working together. We need your help to grow the online community. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you to all of the people that have joined us online. We started at the start of the year with live streaming our events, and I think Matt said we had up to like 20 people RSVP'd online. That's a big growth for us because we've always been in real life. We brought on Renee this year to do our social media, but we really need help from the community. In order for us to deliver more value to our sponsors and to our community, we need the community to be engaged. So we are trying our best. So this is a screenshot of Twitter. Obviously, follow us, whatever your poison is, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. I think those are the main three. Give us a follow and try to interact with us. That will really help us. The more you help us, give more value to the sponsors, more money we can get, better drinks we can get. All right, ATB Community Hub. Oops, I'm clicking too fast. This is a new thing that we have launched. So I said to the team, I'm like, everybody has these newsletters. Everybody knows the news if you're on Telegram. Like, we're sending out a newsletter and it's old. So what can we do to create more value for the community? So we've created the Community Hub. And so what that is essentially every single month on the first of the month, we will list all of the events that are happening nationally and globally if you want to start going out there and playing. And then we will also share recaps. So for example, this recording, we do online events, the recordings. If we can get our hands, like whether Mark from Oz DeFi does an online event, we'll upload those recordings. So there's just somewhere for that you can go and be like, hey, I feel like going on a holiday, but I want to trick the wife into thinking that we're going somewhere where there's no crypto. You could maybe plan an overseas holiday, or you could just watch the recordings. So that is where you can opt into that. We're doing it on Paragraph. If you haven't heard of Paragraph, it is a Web3 newsletter with the vision of one day, maybe we'll be able to incentivize you guys for participating because you can tokenize every single newsletter that goes out of Paragraph. So that is our new, we've been doing it for about 3 months. It's going very well so far. So anybody that has an event or knows of an event, you want us to showcase it, please let us know. Lastly, I'd like to say a big thank you to Innovate. I know that there's not many two people in the room from Innovate, but this has been our home for the last 2 years. Gav, I know that you're not here, but in case you watch the recording, I'm very grateful for the opportunity that you gave us for this to be the ATB home for the last 2 years. Now, with that being said, this will not be our home anymore. For those regulars, please do not come here next month. We will be going back to the precinct, and that's where the Christmas party will be. So please make sure that you check that out. And all of the events will be at the precinct in the new year. We always take January off because too many people are off having fun. They're on holidays. I think even if we threw an event in January, there'd probably be me and 5 people and a bottle of wine. So we always take January off, right? I know you might show up, So we always take January off as a reset period, and then we'll be kicking off in February at the precinct. And the other change that I would like to make note is that we're switching it up from Tuesdays to Wednesdays to Tuesdays. So next year, it will be on the first Tuesday of every month. For everybody that gets to know ATB, we like some consistency. So it will be on the first Tuesday, and we've actually already booked the precinct for the whole year. So first Tuesday of the month at the precinct, that will be our new home. So once again, let's just give a round of applause for Innovate for providing us this space, food and drinks and everything that they've done. And their team, even though they're not here, I know one of them's in the corner, so you can tell them we said thank you. I'm going to bring up Matt, who's going to bring you up through some events.
Thank you, Danielle. Yes, I had to fill out a contract per event next year at the precinct. So there was something like 11 contracts that I had to submit to do with their government-based systems. My name is Matt. I'm a technologist, known to most of you now. I have my travel segment. I'm going to do the travel segment tonight because we have some really interesting people in the room, some of whom I've just met. What I like to do is highlight how far people have come. I think our winner tonight is, what's your name again? From Italy, Marco, all the way from Italy. Give it up for Marco. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be hard to beat. Now, coming closer to home, Piqui Viola, my friend, I think originally from Hong Kong, right? So that's on the way. So I'm coming down here geographically. This is a test of my grade 9 geog. Anything else from Asia? Anyone else from Asia? No? Okay, so we've got John Plummer from Sunshine Coast. We've got new man Ray, who also seems to moonlight between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. Welcome, Ray. He's come especially tonight. He was at Sunshine Coast Blockchain, I think it was last night, as was Willow. Willow also. Adrian, now I'm going down the coast. So Brisbaneites, you don't, well, thank you for coming. You're, yeah, we'll, you know, a 10-minute commute doesn't really count. I'm going to make this as quick as I can, but it is worth highlighting the lengths to which people go to come along, and we really do appreciate it. Michael is also north side. Thank you, Michael. Is it Sunshine Coast or north side? All over the place. He's from Holland originally. Talk to him, our chief libertarian. Coming down to Brisbane. Brisbane. People online. Okay, quick Q&A if you want to jump into the chat. If the people online want to tell us. Brisbane. Adrian, you're from Pimpamar, I think. Yatla, I was close in the direction. So I'm going down the coast. I'm going down to Gary. No, Gary's Brisbane. Peter is Byron Bay and surrounds. Thank you, Peter. I always call that Peter. And then we go down to Newey. Our guys tonight are from Newcastle. Hashlock guys, thank you. They're forever on a plane. They must have premium points with Jetstar or with whoever they fly with. Sorry, Rachel, was there something online? Scenic Rim and Brisbane, that is pretty impressive. I see I could have gone Sunshine Coast, Scenic Rim and down here. I'm hurrying. Any further south? Sydney? Okay, I'm moving on. That was my travel segment. There is so much going on next week. We've barely got time to talk about it. The Blockies are the awards that are put on by the Digital Economy Council of Australia each year, and they are going to be on, it must be a week tonight. No, a week tomorrow? Yeah, Thursday. It's going to be a massive week. Anyway, Blockies next week. I think tickets still available. Virgo, we have Viola here from Virgo tonight. Thank you. She's one of our, Virgo's one of our sponsors. Thank you very much. And I'm going to be hosting a panel down there looking back at the year in crypto and in blockchain. So that's going to be a lot of fun. That's on the Friday night. And where possible, we provide QR codes for you to click straight into these, and you can actually check out the details and register if you wish. So that's next Friday. Then on the Saturday and Sunday, AusCryptoCon itself, claiming to be the largest, if not in the Southern Hemisphere, certainly in Australia, and probably the Southern Hemisphere is the claim, crypto event going around. That is Yolwen Chen from Trust Wallet, I've got up there on top there. She actually came down for the conference last year. AusCryptoCon, tickets still available, and you can get a 10% discount by using the code ATB10. I think that's still working, isn't it, Danielle? As far as I'm aware. Yeah, yep. ATB10 for discounts for that. Now, I'm doing this in date order. So immediately we get back, because Danielle loves to push herself to the limit. On the Monday following AusCryptoCon, we have an AMA with Mark Marsh talking the power of AI. And that's one of my passion areas now, is the intersection between decentralized tech and AI. It makes a lot of sense to me. Look out for that on the 25th. You'll find that on meetup.com. I am rushing through because there are so many. Then for the real nerds, this is actually an academic event, the Distributed Ledger Technology Symposium. A whole bunch of academics from around the world actually come together. It's going to be in Brisbane City. And it's on the same week following AusCryptoCon, the Thursday and Friday, I think it is, 28th and 29th. And they, follow the whole academic process. They submit papers that are vetted and approved, and then they, present the papers at the conference over 2 days. I think the tickets are about $180 something, but you do get lunch and catering over the 2 days. Quite a good event. I went to it last year. If you're really into some deep academic research on blockchain tech, it's definitely something worth checking out. As are the events from Digital Economy Council of Australia. They have this calendar, which I talk about most months, worth checking out because there's just so much going on in our industry. And then the chance to be with us all together and our friends at DECA on the Wednesday, the 4th of December, which must be 3 weeks, we're at the precinct, take note, at the precinct. So it's going to be a trial run for us moving back there next year. That graphic is thanks to me. So that's about the extent of my visual design capabilities. So I'm quite proud. I'm actually quite proud that it got approved by Danielle and Amy Rose, so from DECA. So I was really quite thrilled. But that I will shut up now. Shout out for volunteers, as Danielle mentioned, always looking for just a little bit of help, just moving away things afterwards and putting away chairs. Onto the main event of tonight, Hashlock, with their rebrand and this hash sign that just revolves. It's so wonderful, and the wonderfully branded Hashlock. It's Fletch, one of the founders and a director from Hashlock. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Fletcher Roberts, director and co-founder of Hashlock, along with Jock over there. I think he did the last one, so this one's my turn today. So we'll see how I go. So Hashlock is one of the leading blockchain cybersecurity and auditing firms in the world. So our main service is smart contract auditing. So put your hand up if you've heard of smart contract auditing in the industry. And if you've heard of, some of our competitors and things like that, and you've been around the auditing space, put your hand up just so I can get a gauge. Okay, cool. So we are I've got to probably not hold it that close. We are a smart contract auditing and Web3 security firm. One of the fastest growing firms in the world. So we were founded in 2022. We started out of Australia, actually out of Newcastle. We quickly, there wasn't really a firm in Australia that was just doing, there was a few. Sigma Prime is an Australian firm that we highly respect, but there wasn't really a firm that was just doing Web3 security and no development, no nothing, just as that as the focus. And so we quickly sort of took most of the Australian market and a lot of the larger Australian protocols did some collaborations with the universities and things like that very early on. And then once we built our reputation, we sort of expanded. And now most of our team and clients are sort of all around the world just because of how the industry is. So it's a little bit about us. So we don't just do Web3 security auditing. We like to call ourselves a Web3 cybersecurity firm. So in that comes things like penetration tests, because most of the time you're dealing with something like a DApp. So you have the front end, which is, and then you have the smart contracts behind it. So a decentralized app. So the whole thing needs cybersecurity. We also do things like bug bounties, which is sort of what you do after the auditing process, which is where, you have deployed the code and then you don't want people to hack it. So you offer a reward to any hacker that would find any vulnerabilities. Okay, so do I really need a security audit? Luckily enough, we don't get this question too much. The reasoning is, one of Jock's favorites, I would highly recommend you go to rekt.news. Rekt.news, do it in your own time. You can look through some of the biggest hacks in the industry. They're usually in the hundreds of millions, sometimes close to billions of dollars. Because of the nature of the Web3 industry, it's very high liquidity, and all of the liquidity is on one layer, typically within those smart contracts, and it's on a public ledger, so everyone can see it, interact with it, and potentially exploit it. So we luckily enough don't typically get the question, do I need one? The other thing is the industry expects you to have audits completed. So if you're ever investing or doing things like that, a very easy gauge on a protocol is, has it been audited and by who? Is the firm reputable? The other thing, to sort of use audits for is to sort of see cool projects that are coming out, because we do audits for them, typically pre-launch or pre-launch of new protocols that existing sort of foundations are launching. So a few of our cool clients, I'll speed through these because I'm actually really keen. I've got a Q&A and we've got some merch to give out, which will be pretty fun. We as we've grown, like I said, we've sort of, I'll go through a few, but we probably, who's heard of protocols like, who's heard of the Verita network? Anyone here heard of the Verita network or the Red Belly network? There we go, a lot more, yeah. So those are, yeah, exactly. So Verita, Red Belly, and a few of those are Fluidity Money. Those are some of the Australian protocols that we got very early as auditing clients. So we recruit most of our security researchers from platforms like Code Arena and ImmuneFire. So platforms where security researchers compete in a community setting to find vulnerabilities. And so what we do is we essentially source and recruit only from the platforms where you can see exactly how good they are, what they find. And so we recruit the best security researchers in the world. So because of that, yeah, we got some of the best Australian protocols very early, grew the reputation, like I said. And then now we've got, yeah, some of the leading protocols in the world. So Peak Network is arguably the largest layer 1 for DeepIn in the world. They did their TGE today. These guys are very highly funded. And that's one of our really cool clients. I'd definitely recommend checking out for things like RWA and DeepIn. Specifically, they sort of do a bit of an intersection. I'd highly recommend checking out Peak Network. Red Belly Network, who I just mentioned, one of our really cool Australian ongoing clients. They're all about RWA and compliance. So another audited clients, I would highly recommend checking these guys out. And once again, Australian, so shout out to them. Algem, this one was a very fun ongoing client. We're lucky in Hashlock. What happens when you're building a protocol or a network is typically you build out your core offering, and then you build more smart contracts and infrastructure and ways for the community to use your protocol. And that was one of these clients where we sort of did their first audit, and that they've been audited by other audit firms before, and they then just started coming back to us. So almost monthly we do something for these guys, which is very cool, and they have a lot of total value locked on chain. And a New Zealand-based protocol that we've worked for is Immersive. So these guys are actually officially, I'm not sure the term they use, but they don't just use MasterCard cards, they're actually somehow officially partnered with MasterCard. Don't ask me the very specifics on it. But yeah, so that's another one of our really cool clients in the payments sector. It's really cool to see, and I've been talking about this a lot, in this bull run, at least for what we've noticed, it's not as much of, pump and dump tokens and NFTs and things like that. And, nothing against tokens and NFTs, but it's a lot of infrastructure now. And so it's been, the PR around this bull run has been more quiet, we've seen. And it's been more just infrastructure prices and just, plainly Bitcoin itself going up in price. We're still very early. But what we've noticed is, it's more things like this, business applications and infrastructure that are really leading the way, which is really exciting for the maturity of the technology. So we as a firm, another rare feature is we have done and can do almost anything. And the reason why you would think, oh, okay, so they're just not very specialized then. No, we are. It's because of the way that we recruit. So when we assign auditors onto a protocol, we only assign them onto audits that they have a specific portfolio for. So that's why we're able to do so many different networks, languages, and things of that nature. And why we have so many cool case studies in each. So I won't go through too much through this, but essentially we have a very collaborative process, a very fun process. And the biggest differences is oftentimes a big problem, and this is one of the reasons why Hashlock grew so fast, is because especially a couple of years ago when Hashlock started, Jock and I sort of identified that you would pay for an audit and then you would hear nothing. And then in a certain period of time, you would get a report sent to you, and that was the exchange. What we do is we'll actually put the specific auditors in a group chat with the, or direct communication channel with the client, and then talk back and forth throughout the audit. It sounds crazy, right? I know, but that collaboration itself is in the Web3 auditing industry actually quite rare. And so that innovation alone led to a lot of growth for us. Just very simple, very simple point of difference, but actually talking to the clients with the auditors rather than some front man was massive for us in our growth. And then, so there's a few rounds, and then they eventually get a final report. And then they get a lot of promotion and validation from the community for that, and then ongoing support. One thing about Hashlock is we, as of today, have never had a hack across any of our clients, across hundreds and hundreds of audits. We've never had a hack. No other firm can say that. Let's go. Yeah, let's go. We've secured in the billions on chain across all of our clients. Yep. All of the total value locked adds up to billions, and we've never had a hack as of today. No other firm of our size can say that even close. All of the largest, most trusted names have had hacks, but we have not. And I think it's mainly because of, the specific recruiting and also the back and forth communication, which in most industries seems standard, but just the Web3 industry just hasn't been like that and hasn't done it how we've done it. So I've talked a bit about this, but so there's a few things that make us different. It's a lot about communication, quality. So we like to consider ourselves, with a security research structure that's very academic. And our reports are very good. Early on, we talked a lot about when Hashlock was starting, manual line-by-line analysis, because you can do audits with tools. You can sort of use, software tools to do audits. But even with AI today, you'd think, okay, well, surely AI could just check my smart contracts. But the problem is there's a lot of business logic involved. So you have to understand what the business is trying to achieve in one sort of area. Then you have to understand all the smart contracts combined and then how they all work together. And then the exploits aren't necessarily like a bug. It's more of a lack of thought in terms of how they work together. So AI just doesn't have the capacity yet to do that. And so, yeah, we do manual line-by-line analysis. So auditors literally sit down after reading everything and talking to the client and literally go line by line, sometimes with thousands of lines of code. And that's how we sort of do our audits. Yeah, bunch of the clients that we've talked about here. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a bit of a fun Q&A. This will be the fun part. And we'll see. And we've got, Jock, are you on merch duty? Yeah. Okay.
Jock's on merch duty.
All right, sick.
I'm on Q&A. I have a question. I'm going to
Let's
kick
do
it
that.
off. First, the most important question. How do you get the little hash sign to circle around like that?
Magic. It's bleeding edge tech hasn't released it. It's
Bleeding
magic.
edge.
No.
Oh, God, like
Jock.
I've honestly always wondered. Okay, so we're gonna open it up, but I would like to start off. Great, you guys are amazing at what you do. You haven't had any hacks. As a retail investor, that I want to go and do my DD, which everybody tells me to do, and I don't know how to do it. How do I determine if a project A has had a smart contract audit? And then B, if it's a good smart contract audit. And then secondly, who's auditing the smart contract audits?
Those are good questions. And this is one of the problems in the industry is that the audits aren't really, there's no standards. This is a global industry and there's not like there's not much regulation as to what does a smart contract audit actually mean. Really what it is the industry does it by the reputation of the firm. So typically you'll say, I got a Hashlock audit, or I got a Sigma Prime audit, or I got an insert firm audit. And the name that you say results in the trust that you get. And so the way that you make sure that the auditors like Hashlock are doing a good job is their track history and their reputation and their clientele, and yeah, if they've been hacked. Also things like, their methodologies and things like that. So it's really a branded quality thing. And unfortunately, it does require the research of the investor. Most audit firms like Hashlock post all of their audits that they can, that the clients let them, on their website. So hashlock.com has, hundreds of audits available on the website, and you can go look at them. And most audit firms do, but it is hard and it does put a little bit of research on your side, but it means that if you do that, then you're probably you're less likely to invest in something that will get hacked.
All right, we're going to open it up to the audience, but I have one more cheeky one. So as a project owner, can I hire you to audit the code of my developer? Because a lot of the times when people get wrecked, it's from the devs.
You're right. Yeah, actually, a lot of the bigger hacks that happen are internal sort of, back doors that were left. It happens all the time. Like, it actually happens a lot. I don't know if I'm accidentally pressing buttons. No. So that happens a lot. Now, that is what we try to audit for. So one of the first things we are looking for is backdoors in code. It's hard. You also have other things that we can't as directly see, like key management. Like unless we do an audit on that, like how is the key management and internal cybersecurity of the business. But yes, in terms of smart contracts, it happens a lot. So what will happen is a developer will be very smart and will leave an exploit in the code and hope that the auditor doesn't find it. And that happens a lot. And yes, we've found some. And so, a lot. Most of our reports have high-level vulnerabilities, like, millions.
And how do you tell the projects, hey, you got a dodgy dev?
It it's not easy. It causes a lot of arguments. Yeah. That's actually easier than saying, than when it wasn't malicious, when they were just ignorant and we're like, hey, I know you mean well, your code sucks. And that is an awkward conversation. But yeah, anyone else have?
We'll take one from online and then we'll go from Josh online. What is the one of the most common issues that come up in most audits?
Yeah, so those backdoor vulnerabilities are massive. I would say the most common, so in our audits, we always find, not always, but we generally hope to find high-level vulnerabilities in each audit. You know, most reports that you look on our website will have a high or a critical vulnerability. Now, most of those are business logic issues. So they're not necessarily like just a simple one-line bug or mistake. It's a, hey, here's our whole protocol and all of its smart contracts. Here's the scope of what we're trying to achieve. We'd look through it all and be like, you realize that if you call functions in this specific order, you've left a massive loophole, which will result in the user draining funds from you unfairly. That sort of loophole, lack of business logic thinking is massive. So that's why Web3 auditor is different than just normal cybersecurity. You're not only thinking about like bugs and you can't just do it with tools. You're also thinking about tokenomics, so essentially economics, and you're thinking about business logic, and you're thinking about game theory. How can, you know, yeah, so it's a lot more than just code. It's very complex.
All right, we'll open it up to the audience.
Good to see you guys at Newcastle, ex-Newcastle. Question, the smart contracts that you're dealing with, are they getting more complex to what you used to start with? And the complexity of business rules are growing?
That's a good question. Thank you. Yes, and good to see you. There you go. I would personally say that the thing that's getting the most complex is the actual underlying infrastructure. So we audit smart contracts, but then we also audit infrastructure like layer 1 blockchains and all the things that come with that and all the innovation in that space. That is getting extremely complex because the problem is the whole point of a new layer 1 or new infrastructure is to be better than other infrastructure. Whereas the difference is in smart contracts, you just want to be different, like a different app, different application. But with new networks, you actually want to be, most of them, they're like come in, they're like, I want to be the best network. And so there's a lot of innovation, and that is where you have a lot of complex stuff. Smart contracts are getting more complex, but yeah, I would say mainly it's in the infrastructure space.
Just a quick one. Who would be your typical client?
Yeah, so the typical client is most of the time they're a funded Web3 startup. So they've went out and raised some VC, and then they're building infrastructure or a decentralized application. Now, they're not all funded, but typically, yeah, it's like a Web3 foundation or a layer 1 blockchain, or it is a funded Web3 company that's building a decentralized application.
I have a question based on, and I'll open it back up to the audience, but earlier you mentioned Peak Network, which is actually kind of a new layer 1 that's kind of piqued my interest. No pun intended in the name.
Nice.
Sometimes I crack myself up. Now, are you a client of auditing, like you said, they just did their TGs, or were you auditing their smart contracts for their layer 1, or are they engaging you to audit the projects that are building on top of, and or do you have like a partnership agreement where they've endorsed and said, okay, well, we want you to have a Hashlock audit because we trust them, and we want you, because if you're building on Peak Network, we want to know that you're not going to rug people.
Yeah, good question. So obviously there's some things at Peak that, because it's still early, that I can't go into heaps of detail, but the answer is both. So yeah, we're doing audits for Peak, and we're also doing audits for Peak projects that are building on their network. And I can name a few of those. So Natix network is a really cool one based around cameras. I don't want to pitch for them, but if you actually think about how many cameras are in the world now, it's a bit weird, but there's a lot of them. And so that's one of them. And there's plenty more. So yeah, we're auditing a lot of Peak peak protocols.
Can you just elaborate on the cameras and what they're doing? Because I think it's actually quite interesting. I know that there's Hive Mapper where they reward you for putting a dash cam and they reward you for that. I just came back from Dubai. There's cameras everywhere. The reason why it's the safest place in the world is because there's cameras everywhere. You also have no privacy. Can you explain just a little bit? Not that we're trying to pitch them because I don't even know who they are, but how are they? What value are they adding? And then how as a user can I gain value and how are they monetizing that, the cameras?
Yeah, I wouldn't tell you how they're monetizing it. It is very interesting. And you're right, Dubai as a country, I left it was my wallet, wasn't my laptop. I left my wallet on I lose my wallet all the time, like a lot. And yeah, and I left my wallet on a table, got up, just walked around for the rest of the day, came back the next day. I think they tried to call me and I just didn't get it. And talked to a lovely person on the cleaning staff. And they took me down through some underground tunnel. I talked to some like guy in a security guard. He gets out, looks at me, and then bang. And then, but the wallet was, I don't even know how long the wallet was there. And it had heaps of, Dubai UAE currency in it. And but with Natix, they're a DPIN, so they're decentralized physical infrastructure. So they're trying to, there's a lot of ways that they're using the cameras, but it is a decentralized version of monetizing physical infrastructure.
I think we need to do more research on that one. Viola.
You mentioned that you hire the best people for the task and then you just look at their track record. Does that mean that you provide them with the standard that they will have to hit all the requirements for the job? And how do you ensure the end quality stays the same throughout? Because then that means you have continuous hiring and then you have to go through the process with these people.
Really good question. And we are really lucky in our industry. So because there's public leaderboards, this is very unique. There's public leaderboards of the security researchers and what they've found. And so that handles the quality. I can literally look at an auditor's profile and be like, okay, so you found this many issues in this network. Now, the ongoing hiring part is a challenge. Yes. But I think what compensates for that is the quality that gets put into our brand name from doing so. So within auditors, at any given time, it does fluctuate, 10 to sometimes up to 20 security researchers at any given time. And then 9 full-time staff in other areas. So 6 or 5 or 6 BDs, Jock, myself, 2 project managers. So I don't even know, I think it's 9 or 10 in there as well. So yeah, quite a bit. Yeah.
Hey, just Matt mentioned AI and how there's this intersection of AI and new protocols. Do you guys find that it's a kind of the next stage of positioning yourself to handle potentially evolving these projects that are evolving, and how do you position yourself to audit those projects
in AI? Yeah, that's actually interesting. Something that we're thinking about quite a lot. So within the Hashlock group, we have a brand called Fortify. So underneath Hashlock, it's called Fortify, which is spelled FOTIFAI.org. You can pretty easily find it. We did some of the security auditing on some of the New South Wales government's early stuff that they did for one of their largest departments. So the process is pretty similar. You just need expert security researchers. Now, our current questioning is how we integrate that with Hashlock, because early we were like AI auditing here, one brand, and then Hashlock is blockchain security. And that was our early thinking. Now, literally day to day, we're thinking, and we looked at a few of our competitors, is it that separate? Because one of the biggest parts of Web3 at the moment is how you integrate AI. And a lot of our protocols are coming to us with that integration that you're talking about. So the true answer is we're still sort of figuring out how to integrate the two from a branding perspective, but from a skill perspective, it's definitely something that we're ahead on.
Yep. I'm very impressed what you've done in 2 years. So when you started, how did you find your clients or how do new clients find you?
Yeah, and I like how you worded that. How did you find your clients? Category 1, and then category 2, how did they find you? Very well worded. So we still separate our marketing, and like I believe you should, into inbound and outbound marketing. So Jock and I are co-founders. My personal skill set primarily was in business growth and marketing. Long story, but straight out of uni, I ended up working in a marketing firm for, 2.5 years and getting mentored in that space. So the true answer is we really used our CRM, so tracked everything. And we didn't have much money, but even when we were at events, we'd come back and track how many leads did we get. So a lot of outbound, how many new contacts did we get? And then we'd always track how many proposals did we get to send, how many meetings. So I think a lot of it was tracking, because once you track something, that's when you can optimize for it. So before I can go and say, I'm going to run this massive marketing campaign, why don't I just start by tracking it, even if the number's like 2 meetings conducted and, just track it. And then next month, and so once we had our first client, so first person went from contacts, gathered right through to proposal sent and sold. We had a measurable pipeline now consisting of 1 client. And then we, so there's a lot of outbound early. Jock and I built our first ever website very quick. I remember pushing Jock, I'm like, let's just get it out. Let's get it out. And it was, very quick. And then we had sort of a 2.5 not long after that. And then that website that we had lasted, so we've been around for 2.5 years. That website lasted probably 2 of them. And we started doing Google Ads, we started doing SEO, we started doing a lot of paid social stuff, paid sponsorships, and getting inbound started, and then ramping up our outbound strategies on socials and things like that, and networking. And then only recently, we've got a nice new website that's more up to our standard. And that one's, doing quite well and ranking quite highly for most. If you just look for the top auditors in the space on Google, most places around the world will be very high up there. But that's also because a lot of the websites link to us. But yeah, I think just measuring inbound and outbound and being niche is sort of what did it, and just caring a lot about growth and marketing. Because the one thing I'll say is the Web3 industry is the most important thing is the tech in terms of building a business. But unfortunately, most Web3 businesses don't understand marketing and growth very well. They understand, I'm going to build this cool tech, and that's what we love at Hashlock. But I'll be the first to say, you do also really, the second priority needs to be, how do I make a business out of this? And that's good for the industry and the tech, because that's how you drive innovation. It has to be paid for at some point.
My question actually kind of relates. So I love your emphasis on data and kind of metrics and tracking, because that's the only way you can optimize. But I'm really interested, a bit of a tangent, but when you talked about your clients being really infrastructure focused, I'm interested in the narrative and the marketing that they're doing. Are they saying we're a blockchain Web3, or are they saying something else and that they're just using the fundamental technology because it's superior, fit for purpose? I'm interested in, really, really interested in that.
Yeah.
Contracts are being audited?
More, how are their clients selling what they're doing? Is it a selling point that they're Web3?
Yeah, so
Not the
I know
blockchain.
I know what you're saying. So early on, it was all like, early on it was all, we are a Web3 startup. I think most still are like that. However, some of the examples that I ran you through are, yes, it's more just here's what we do, and then in smaller writing using blockchain. So, and for example, I'll point to an example. Blockchain Australia sort of rebranded to digital economy of Australia. So it went from blockchain to digital economy. I really like that, because it's not just that, it shouldn't be built on that this is a blockchain. It should be built on what it does, which is it creates a digital economy. So I really like that. That's a good example. And so not all of our clients are doing that, but they're starting to. I'm all for that, because I think it matures the industry. When I pull out my phone, I don't say, here's what this app was coded in. I just say, I'm using the Uber app and this is what it does. I don't say, I don't know what it was coded in.
Probably C++.
There you go. So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
Good day, Felicia. Thanks, guys, for the presentation. I think you might have scared the crap out of me a little bit. I hope I misinterpreted. But for normal audits of finance audits and safety audits and whatever, there's a standard or some sort of protocol you follow. You said there wasn't actually a formal standard. So are you developing that standard like within Australia internationally? And is this now, I guess, an opportunity for you to grow big internationally because of setting that standard?
We get that question a lot as well. So yeah, are we working on standards? We get pulled into a lot and we've done a lot. So we've done consultation papers. There's a lot of global industry bodies. There's lots of it globally and in Australia. More, I'll be honest, although, we love Australia, it's more globally. The global industry is faster on this. Yeah, so us, along with other auditing firms, typically get pulled into that discussion. The hardest thing is that in most other auditing environments, you have like, here's what you need to check and here's the standards that you need to go through. Because the Web3 industry is more of we're white hat hackers, we're good ethical hackers. Hacking is more of an art. It's not more of like a check this, no, move on, check it. It's more of a thinking like a mind puzzle game. Every time you do like a mind puzzle, you're not going through the same process. It's a different process each time. And each auditor, each individual person hacks slightly differently. I think that's the hard part. But in saying that, there should be regulations around who the firm is. You can't just get an audit from joeblowsaudits.com. And there should be regulations, checks into who is actually, the processes behind that.
The process that you have behind on who you're engaging to do those
Yeah.
audits. But I think that probably comes down to your reputation, like your whole reputation you wouldn't be building. But in terms of, I'm going to pass it over, but I want to piggyback off of that. Do you think it's harder to set standards for the Web3 industry because there's different standards on Ethereum compared to Solana, compared to Sui, and like how do somebody that's auditing them keep a standard? So for me, I think of it as kind of like Ethereum's job to have a certain standard mechanism and be like, okay, these are the top 10 projects that have had smart contract audits and they've been audited by Hashlock and they have no issues. So do you think it's the network's responsibility of actually kind of implementing a standard of having smart contract audits?
Yeah, a lot of networks, Web3 foundations and Web3 networks and ecosystems do require, and they'll say, here's the auditors that we require you to work with if you build on our chain and things like that. Absolutely. That is actually the other hard part, is there's so much tech being built and languages and infrastructure. How do you, maybe you could achieve regulations for what to check for in Solidity, maybe, which is like the main Ethereum smart contract language. But then there's so many other languages that are used. Yeah, Move, Rust, more infrastructure stuff like Golang, and it's all of an art. It's an art form. Finding the vulnerabilities really is an art form because everyone does it slightly differently. I think it's difficult. But yeah, a lot of ecosystems police it themselves and they'll say, here's the orders that you have to use based on experience, essentially.
I've got a barrage of questions, so you pick what you want. The gentleman behind me beat me about the AI bits, but a quick series of questions. The AI side of things bearing together. There's talk of using AI to help with things like consensus algorithms without hallucinations and so on. Have you come across anything like that in your adventures? The other aspect, you round them all up, is that I know a number of languages, Solidity, Haskell, and et cetera, for new chains and so on, for things like there was a Monero hack where you doubled up on the wallet and you basically got a double dipping and so on like that. How do you, rounding up all of those things, how do you address those sorts of things in regards to your audits? You don't know what you don't know, so to speak. And one last bit, Jock, you got the first 3 letters of your surname in the name of the company. How did Fletcher miss out?
That last one was the funniest one. I remember, as most startups or almost every startup does, you have your list of names. We had a sort of a list of names, and it was very funny. I mean, when we saw Hashlock, we're like, that's the one. And we're like, yes, let's do Hashlock. Let's do Hashlock. Hashlock is the name. We didn't really do much research into was the domain taken or anything like that. That's no long story. And then about a day or two later, I'm like, Hashlock, Jock Haslam. I'm like, oh, nice, Jock. Yeah. But, yeah. um, the creation of Hashlock was a fun time. Yeah, it was, it's definitely cool. But and then with the AI stuff, again, yes, we've seen a lot of it and we're seeing a lot of it. I think it's probably one of the largest areas of innovation. It's scary because as us as a security firm, we're not in charge of like the success as such. We're in charge of directly making sure it doesn't get hacked or, like you said, hallucination and things like that. So even if the idea is that this is a solution that doesn't hallucinate, that just scares me personally. But risk is what drives innovation.
Can I
in the
just
industry.
intercept? What does hallucination mean? Because the only way I know is if I'm on LSD. And so I don't think that's what we're talking about right now.
AI going off track, going off kilter compared to the questions that
If it thinks it knows what it's talking about.
Oh, that happens to me all the time. ChatGPT is wrong.
Yeah, that's hallucination. And then if you're trying to embed it in like a consensus algorithm that runs and governs the blockchain.
Oh, but we're too early for that.
People are doing it. Yeah, people are doing it.
Gosh, we're in trouble.
Yeah. So yeah, we see a lot of it. To us, it's scary, but that's also if you would like summarize Hashlock, the smart contract industry is going to change, even with AI. The infrastructure audits are going to change, but in general, what the company is trying to achieve is to make blockchain safer in general, or I'll even use better words, to make digital infrastructure safer. So whatever that looks like as the technology improves, someday smart contracts, we would have figured it out and there'll be barely any hacks, but there'll be other areas that we need to fix. So that's what we do.
Well, if there's no hacks, then there's no job for Hashlock. Well, thank you very much, Jock. Jock, I know you didn't speak very much tonight, but get up there. You're last question. One last question to the audience.
Oh, is it the bottle? Is it the drink bottle? Is it the Stanley Cup? Oh, we've got, all right. So I just want to say this, right? All right. So you know how I talked about the creation of Hashlock? So what you do is, so Jock and I used to do everything together and we slowly figured out our lanes. One of Jock's favorite lanes to this day, one of Jock's favorite lanes this day is the merch. He loves the merch. I'm going to be a little bit, I'm biased, but we have the best merch in the industry, in my opinion. Our jumpers, we don't have the jumpers here, but they're amazing. Jock makes all the merch. He has the OG hat with the old logo. He wears it everywhere. He doesn't take it off. Rumor is he sleeps in it. He has like 20 of them. And so we actually have a Stanley Cup. So sometimes I'll just be chilling and then Jock will like send me a photo and I'm like, it's like a stack of boxes this high. And I'm like, what is that? And he's like, it's like 200 Stanley Cups with a Hashlock logo. And I'm like, all right, cool. So we have a Stanley Cup here. You got to win it. All right. What PC shooting video game? So what computer video game that involves shooting helped lead to the formation of Hashlock? We haven't said it today, but someone might know it based on us, or you can guess. So it's a shooting game on the computer, and it helped lead to the
Fortnite.
No. What? Counter-Strike. Let's go.
Woo! All right. But you might think the Stanley Cup is amazing. I think these bottle openers are amazing, and I have one for every single one of you. So I'm going to be walking around and passing them out. I'd like to get Hashlock up here for photo. Matt, get up here. Oh, well, that's fine. Hello, people online. Yeah, do a wrap. But I just want to give a big round of applause. Thank you for coming down. Thank you for sponsoring ATV. They're also some of our 2025 sponsors. So they'll be around. I don't know if they'll be at the Christmas party, so won't disappoint you. But please join us at the Christmas party and let's drink the bar dry.